most painful injury in football going? Pendles is all right. How's he pulled up?
In his footy career, does that mean of all time? Yeah. Well, he's, if Kane Corns was commenting on Pendles, he'd say that he carries them very well. He doesn't make a lot of fuss, and I think in the initial days he would have been planning to get the surgery and play this week, but it's clearly there was a fair bit of damage in the finger, so I think there was probably a little bit more trauma to fix it than they initially thought. But he'd be thinking, I'll take this week off and get set for the week after. That's his mentality. But he'll just go about his business, and he'll put his hand up before we think that he'll be ready. And it may be one, it may be two, but we'll make sure that we make the right call for him and for us.
So you're confident he will play at some stage again this year?
Yeah, relatively, without having all the information. Yeah.
Is there a temptation to leave him out and let some other players get in?
No. No, if he's fit, he plays.
Who do you look to replace him with? What are the options for you? We can shift our current sort of squad around. The 22 from last week, and bring someone in back, bring someone in forward, or find a like for like through the midfield. We've had, our VFL got done on the weekend, but we've had some pretty solid form. So. Had some players that have been putting their hand up, so that we'll go through that this afternoon. Levi, one of those, mate. Levi Greenwood, one of those.
Yeah, well, Levi didn't play last week, obviously suspended. Tom Phillips, Rupert Wills has been in great form. We've seen some boys come in, like Josh Thomas and Blairy, probably the last couple that have come in, and Mason Cox for a time, that have played really well in the VFL and been rewarded for their form, which is really important, even in the scenario we're in, to maintain integrity of selection, to reward guys for their efforts at VFL level. So we'll continue to maintain that integrity of selection and make sure the players are really clear on being rewarded for what they're putting forward at VFL level, but also their attitude around the club.
How's it been at the club since that win on the weekend? Was it a bit of a pressure reliever, or how's it sort of been?
No, it's just good to win. It's good to win. We obviously with Blairy and Wellesley's milestones, there was there's a little bit extra in the emotion of it. But it is on a 1 week sample. We were able to tick that box and then move forward to West Coast, and our preparation's been similar, so we know we're coming up against a good opponent. They've actually played pretty well at Etihad, despite their travel woes, so we know what we're coming up against.
Do you feel like the group's really got a sense of purpose back?
Yeah, we went through that period for a couple of weeks where, and you can say it's a lack of purpose, or you might lose sight of where you're going, but we started the second part of the year with designs on making a run at finals, well beaten by Port, and then Hawthorn and Essendon, so that put a bit of a dent in us. But with a shorter period running into the end of home and away, it gives you a chance to refocus, and we've still got some things to achieve. There's areas of our game that we want to improve, and you find out a little bit about individuals and organisations when the stress comes on. So there's opportunity for growth for everyone, but the players are taking that on board, and pretty confident that we'll get some really good effort and good performances in the end part of this season.
How far do you go back in terms of looking at the blueprint to beat West Coast at Etihad? I think Essendon comprehensively beat them there about 4 or 6 weeks ago. Do you look at that match, for example?
Yeah, we look at, it's probably when you look at a ground like Etihad and a team like West Coast that don't come across too often, you're looking at their games there. And but they had a fairly strong performance against Bulldogs more recently, without Josh Kennedy in the side at the time. So, they seem like they've got great players on every line. They're a mature, experienced group, and they're starting to get up and going. So we look mainly at the last sort of 4 weeks, but we can go a little bit deeper when sides done well against them.
When you say you've still got things to achieve this year, and there are some players that need to put their best foot forward, I mean, should we read into that out of contract players playing for their future, that sort of thing? Or?
No, it's just about team performance and how we can how we can put our best foot forward and play our best footy. Clearly there are decisions made every day on players, whether it's for selection that week, whether it's for changing their program to optimise their development, changing the stimulus to try and find another level for each player. I mean, we don't sit on our hands now just treading water. We're actually in the business of developing and trying to improve and trying to be better. So we continue to do that regardless of circumstance.
What are those key areas that you want to see?
We've set ourselves to be a really good defensive side in the back part of the year. We've actually moved the ball pretty well. Our forward connection has been pretty good since after the first 5 rounds. We don't want for supply inside 50, and we defend our back 50 pretty well, but we've allowed too many scores against, whether it's been from stoppage in the last month or from we'd win inside 50s, but then not defend as well in the back 50. So we're just focused on making sure that we really clean that up and defend as consistently and efficiently as we can. Part of that is contest and part of it is ball use, but we're really judging ourselves on points against.
I just want to add general news. Apologies for that notice. They wanted me to ask you what you think of the players' image component being a component of their income, and what do you think of the tax relief there that was reported in the paper this morning?
I didn't read the article. It's always been that the ASAs or the additional services agreements or the money that's sort of in the cap but a little bit out of the cap, but for playing footy but not for playing footy. There's a little bit of grey area there, but clearly it's been money outside of a playing contract that the clubs have been used for image and likeness and marketing. How that looks going forward is interesting, because as a player you always just viewed that as, well, that's just money that you can't fit inside the cap that you need to pay me, and as a club you always thought that you would want some time and some effort from a marketing perspective back for that. So, and I'm sure that that's something the managers and the clubs negotiate as they go through, but it's a bit of a grey, murky area that I don't get involved in too much, mate.
Speaking of articles, what was your take on Mark Robinson's view that Eddie should step down?
Yeah, look, I did read those and saw the articles, and it's not our narrative; it's an external narrative. Ed's been a fantastic president for a long period of time. I think we've been really clear on the fact that at the end of the season, decisions will be made on senior leadership and on a direction forward, with the benefit of a fairly comprehensive review that's taking place at the moment. So the club's not sitting on its hands. We're clearly gaining and gathering all the information independently as much as we can to make the right decisions, and it's pretty important for an organisation to work out why things don't go as well as you want them to, or even in our situation, what's actually going well that we can shine the light on more and make sure that we recognise. So that's our narrative, and we'll continue with that.
Did he make any valid points, do you believe? Like, is there a freshness needed?
I think that we will gather information in the review and make decisions as such. I don't think that anything Robbo says is valid.
Just on player Wells, obviously showed his class last week. Are you confident he's on top of his calf issues?
Well, he's one game back. And,
so I suppose what's your level of confidence that he can be a consistent player playing AFL for the next 2 or 3 years?
It's moderated by the fact that we haven't seen it this year yet. And obviously, if you take it over a longer timeline, it's really only last year that he's been able to consistently get out in the park. Our challenge is to keep finding the best preparation so that Wellsy can get out more often, because clearly when he does, we're a better team. So yeah, when you talk about levels of confidence, it really only comes from demonstration. He's putting a fair bit of work in, and we think that the processes that we've got in place, he's probably starting to understand and get a hold of. There's a lag period. You don't just decide that, hey, yeah, that works for me, and and the next day you're fine. It takes work and it takes a little bit of a longer lag period. So, you know, clearly we'd like to think that he will play more footy for us, you know, over the next couple of years, but we've got a fair bit of work to do between now and then. And in the short term, you know, we'd like him to finish this season, you know, on top of the ground and to play every game on the way home. But can't guarantee that. But that's what we want to see.
It's been a big few weeks in the club. I mean, obviously your future's on the agenda, and Eddie's been pretty strong in the media with a few comments he's made. Does it feel like the club's a bit under siege at the moment, or do you guys sort of just handle that well and doesn't even impact the players?
Well, no, of course. It doesn't feel like we're under siege, but we are. You know, I think we've been pretty good internally at just focusing on the things that we can impact on and we can control on. And I think the club's actually been really strong, you know, in its communication around when and where change is going to take place and the information that's going to be gathered to make that change and to what extent of change. And everyone has an opinion on that. It's not something that that we can communicate to our members with clarity before the end of the season and before all of that information has come to light. We're in the process of gathering it, but what we can do in the short term is perform well, so that doesn't change. So we're looking forward to Sunday and an opportunity to perform to a level that satisfies us and our supporters, and we've still got the opportunity to do that.
Just because it's been a bit of a downbeat sort of 10 minutes, it's probably our fault as much as anything else. I mean, what makes you most optimistic at the moment? What do you get out of bed and get excited about at the moment?
It's probably got more to do with my monotone delivery, I reckon. If I'm making you that sad, I apologise for that. Well, we've got plenty to look forward to. I mean, we're playing AFL footy. These boys have dreamed about this their whole lives. You know, we don't take this for granted. I don't take it for granted. We're very fortunate to be in these positions. You know, Geordie to go through the midfield. It's been good to see him there. Josh Thomas coming back in. What an amazing story with a couple of years off. You know, Ben Reid as a forward. What can he do in the next 6 weeks? You know, seeing Wells, Varco and Elliott in the same side, which hasn't happened that often. We'd like to see that as often as we can in that next 6 games. Braden Maynard, who's probably had a bit of a quiet spell the last couple of weeks, but can he finish the year off in what's been a really strong growth period for him? You know, we've got, you know, we may see, you know, some younger players. You know, as I said, Rupert Wills is in the mix this week. Brodie Grundy, can he finish off what was touted as an All-Australian year? He's probably had a bit of a quieter month, but can he finish that off and Frankie's season? And then there's the leaders that have, you know, been really strong in what they've done and maintained, you know, great integrity with their attitude and the way they've gone about it. Still side bottom, Jeremy Howe, you know, Pendles himself, Taylor Adams. So there's always plenty to gain. I mean, every time you get yourself out of bed, there's something to achieve. And every time you take the training track, there's an opportunity to improve. So it's just reminding yourself of that and not getting caught up in some of the stuff that you can't influence, which is generally what we spend most of our time talking about here. Thanks for the question.